Going to get into religion's best secret, which, if you've watched my previous videos, you know is going to allude to the idea of how, although there are many different religious rituals, the function of religion, its practical application, was not only to give people hope, people know that it's about giving people hope, right? But there's something that people don't know, is that it's about not only creating, good families and having people basically try to look for spiritual and emotional support from an idea of a supernatural power, or an idea of going to a church and fellowshipping and being around wholesome people. But there's something else, and it's been reduced down because, as we know, there are versions of those religions, right? So how is that? How do you interpret that? Well, it has to mean that one is less than the other, but in what way? Well, maybe there's people engaging in less of the rituals, but which rituals are important? I'm here to say that the ritual of no premarital intimacy and the rituals of things like avoiding interactions with the opposite gender, avoiding, basically labeling it as unloving and antisocial to do those things. Because when you add that to it, it makes the line very empirical, very black and white, like anything except a loving marriage, essential and meaningful than sex. Like, even if you're a proclaimed Christian, that you can engage in, stuff that's maybe not full-on sex, but you can engage in dates and flirtations and maybe even kisses, maybe even spending time alone, maybe saying that you love each other even before you're actually married. So this brings into question a lot. It brings into the questions of, what is love, and what is marriage? Because now even the right-leaning people are saying, is marriage such a good idea because it gives the woman power? Well, I have this theory that in order for a marriage to work, for the average person, should be trying to manifest the ideals of a masculine woman and a feminine man, and part of that includes having the woman, even if she has, for one reason or another, wants to work or has to work, she should still give her money to the husband. I think she should have some emergency money, but there's something about women's psychology where, and maybe this isn't forever, maybe this isn't everyone, and maybe when people become, for example, I'm conscious, I would say, at least from a sexual standpoint, like like there are unconscious men who, even if they're say they're Christian or say they're religious or whatever it is, but they still feel this urge where they need more than one woman, where one woman isn't attractive enough, one woman isn't as desirable and amazing enough. Her body, that's where it doesn't make any sense to me, and it seems unconscious. And so it's like a love of, because you share the same values, and so that's the foundation of your relationship. And values I think kind of, it's like all or nothing. It's like you either have the collective values of financial prudency, responsible behaviors like exercise, good food consumption, and wanting to not spoil your children, raise them properly, no premarital intimacy, all that stuff to make it so that you're actually like, it's like if all of your values, but then you are pursuing premarital intimacy and you're giving, the woman's giving access to, from a primitive sense, it's helpful to look at this, and it doesn't mean that men shouldn't also be trying to be virgins, which they should. And it doesn't also mean women shouldn't be giving money to men who aren't their husband, but from like a biological standpoint, like the man providing security and money is security essentially. So, but the man providing that money, he's if he's providing the money to a woman who's not his wife, then that's a bad investment, and just the same as if he's treating her like his wife, right? And what people don't realize is they think that the defining features of treating somebody like your spouse, or of a husband treating the woman like his wife, is the marriage ceremony, but it's not. The real way you show on just your average day or average week in the life of a married person is you go on public dates that shows that you're together, and you of course you're wearing a wedding ring and you say you're married, but it's like, and then the other thing you do is you have sex with each other and nobody else. That's how you show that you want to please that person, because you care about them, not because you're seeking pleasure, right? So what I'm saying is, I'm suggesting is that that's what religion was trying to reinforce. From a historical standpoint, it had people healthy gender separation. They each gender focused on specific activities, and that allowed them to care about each other. And for the most part, although there are exceptions, like maybe certain kings having more than one wife, or maybe certain wealthy men having like a younger woman, which is also unloving, because then what it is doing is it's stealing the woman's youth and using it up, and then what's she gonna do with the rest of her life when the guy dies, right? Like she's gonna be alone. Like it's the ultimate act of greed. And so religion's safeguard to most of this was to safeguard. So yeah, religion's safeguard was for a stable society, was to encourage people to respect each other and not seduce everyone, and not make it about everyone trying to have sex with each other, but rather make it about and try to compete with each other, and the women, the older women hating their daughters because their daughters are attracting men older and younger, and so then the older woman not trying to discourage their daughters from being promiscuous and dressing promiscuously. Like there's a real dark element to it all, but we can overcome it. We can overcome it. And we can overcome it by studying the past and looking and picking the good parts from religion and reincorporating them into our churches and mosques and temples, because those are supposed to be sacred places. And what do you think of when you think of sacredness or religion? Like when someone says they're Christian, at least part of you thinks, oh, well, they're not going to try to seduce me for sex. They're not going to try to seduce my daughters, my sisters, etc. They're going to treat me with respect. And the church is sacred. You know, the women, even if they otherwise dress revealing, at the church they dress conservatively, and it's respectful to the elders, and it's family oriented is really the big critical juncture here. It's family oriented. So that's the goal, is to, if you want a society to sustain it, be sustainable and exist into future generations, it has to be family oriented, it has to be love oriented, it has to be about people wanting the best for each other and having an ability to trust one another. And yeah. So I'm going to make a TikTok, and it's going to summarize this idea. It's like this religion's secret, the religion's best kept secret, and in an attempt to have a moment of, force people into a moment of truth, because if you're really wanting to be religious, all the rituals are secondary. All the language, all the ceremonial or clothing, everything. It's all not as important to society. All the stories. It's not as important to society as actually, a healthy orientation towards sexuality and respecting others' boundaries. And unfortunately, a lot of religions only give like some ideas on avoiding premarital intimacy. I mean, I give many things, such as self-intimacy, which makes you not controlled by your desires, which makes you not wanting it from somebody else. It's that post-nut clarity that people talk about. And so, yeah, that's the deal. But we're moving forward with that, and in an effort to help reveal to people that you should question, like, you should question, like, well, whatever you believe about the afterlife or about supernatural influence or messianic figures or angels or spiritual, whatever types of forces or prayers or even things like worrying about hell or heaven, like I was saying, like whatever you're thinking, try to make it work. Try to make it work. in a way that allows you to have more sex. And that's what happens in marriage is, instead of people trying to figure out how to seduce one person during a one night stand. And by the way, all these terms, you got to watch out for them. They'll use terms like, well, friends with benefits or hooking up or all these terms because they don't want to use the term sex and they don't want to use the term premarital intimacy. So it's deceptive. But yeah, the bottom line is be careful when people say that they are, they say they're about marriage. Question it. All right, guys, I'm gonna hop off the airwaves here, but good conversation. And hey, let's talk more. Okay. Hello, how you guys?